My mother loved all the men that she'd been married to. Always. She didn't have enemies. She didn't have relationships with a man and then not like him later and say, oh, it was all a mistake. I don't think she thought any of her marriages were a mistake.
After 12 years together, Lars Schmidt and my mother were divorced as a result of a relationship he had with another woman. But Mama remained friends with Lars until her death, much as she had remained friends with Roberto until his death. She knew how to forgive, and I admired her for it.
If I would go to each person that admires my mother and I'll ask to describe it, she would probably come up differently each time. Because I think that is the gift she gave, for everybody to shape her in a certain way, the way they wish. And for me, more than anything, she was my mother. My mommy, you know, the one that took care of me when I was sick, the one that would say, you know, your T-shirt is really too dirty, you gotta change. The one that gave me the sense of being practical, an honesty beyond belief, a sense of justice.
I remember I took my two sons to see Bells of St. Mary. It was playing right over here on Broadway. I said, come on, we're going to see Grandma's in a movie. I want you to see her. And, you know, she comes out on the screen. Well, she was in her early 20s, and she's this, you know, enormous, beautiful head. And they kept saying, where's Grandma? I said, that's Grandma. Don't you see that's Grandma? They go, oh, where is? That's Grandma.
In the early 70s, my mother moved to a flat in London. For the first time in her life, she lived alone. My mother still got movie roles, though some were too far from the image she did best. Mama was in her early 60s when she learned she had breast cancer.
I remember it very well because we'd been out riding a bike with my youngest son when she told me. And the doctor had told her to go right into the hospital. But she had plans. So she didn't do that. She went on with her plans because she had that, you know, she heard her voices that told her what to do, and she did pretty well what she wanted to do. She finally went to a doctor in England, and they performed the surgery there, her first surgery. We all went to see her in Paris after the surgery, my half-brothers and sisters, and we stayed with her for a while, and she was in really wonderful humor. She didn't tell a lot of people. She was very brave about it. And she said, well, we'll just go on, you know, we'll just go on. And she did.
When my mother appeared in Murder on the Orient Express, she had a supporting role. And she did it with a funny, slightly kooky manner that people adored. She dared to look old and drab, and she won another Oscar for it, placing her in that august category of 3-time Oscar winners.
Yes, my mother did not feel sorry for herself. It's as simple as that. Self-pity was not one of her characteristics. Right to the end. You could call that courage, and I guess it is. It is a kind of courage.
No, I don't think she ever perceived herself as a victim. I think that sometimes people saw her as a victim, and I've seen her as a victim, because I've seen in her, my mother's eyes, great pain, great anxiety. I've seen it mostly about her disease, but also when she talked about Hollywood and the way she was chased away, her inability to see Pia.
It was not in her vocabulary to say, poor me. Why did this happen to me? She just never said things like that. She just went on. This train keeps going. When the Swedish director Ingrid Bergman and my mother, when they made Autumn Sonata together, the two of them put together their family histories, so to speak. And they made a story about a woman who has a talent, a great talent. And the crisis in this woman's life is whether or not to use her art, fulfill her God-given gift, or stay home and take care of her child. They met, and the first thing she started to tell him how she didn't like the script, she didn't understand the character, this could never happen, and he was like stunned. I mean, he's the maestro, you know. But that was very much my mother. You know, I've read the Mommy Dearest books and the books about children who have had many complaints about their parents' behavior. Now, I don't think you're going to see one of those books from any of my mother's children. And she wasn't there all the time. So you might say, well, there would be a book in that. But nobody is going to. None of her children are going to. And you know why? Because we all loved her. She was fun. She had a good heart. She had a capacity that was very endearing. You know, but it's the iron underneath that. I mean, you wanted to help her and then she'd be stubborn. But that's all right. That was her character. And I think her children accepted that that's the kind of person she was.